Hey, sixth grade, how you guys doing? I know you are busy writing your final drafts for your Seafair project, but I want to make sure you guys have all the necessary information that you're gonna need to make sure you get the grade that you want, okay? So for that, I have attached the final research paper rubric, okay, this piece of paper that you should have in your Seafair folder. I've attached this to the assignment tab, to the assignment in the Google Classroom, okay? It's in there, I promise, I just checked. Make sure you print it out, or if you have this paper one, just have it next to your computer while you're typing, while you're making the fixes that I created for you in your rough draft. Have it next to you. Make sure you are able to check off all of the requirements that you want to have to get the grade that you want on your final, okay? It's very important. There are some really easy points on here. I'm gonna go through all of them for you. I'm also going to be adding them here so that as you're watching the video, you can be reading and know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So the first thing is how you've constructed your research paper in general, okay? All these things are worth 1 point each, totaling to 5 points. So again, have this with you right now, read it over with me, or open it on this side and watch me on this side, okay? So we can go through this together so there's no questions about your grade, okay? So paper construct is worth 5 points. You need to have a title that's underlined and italicized and in the center. You need to have 12-point font. It needs to be double spaced. You need to indent new paragraphs, which you guys are all doing this, so this is not a problem. And then you need to have the correct amount of pages written. People have pretty much done that. The title hasn't really been there. The heading, like your name, hasn't really been there on all of them, but make sure you add that in. Okay, that's 5 points. The introduction paragraph is worth 10 points. You need a strong thesis statement, which basically just means a strong beginning statement to your entire paper. Your main points clearly stated, which there's 3 of them. That's worth 5 points. Okay, and then all the necessary information to flow into your first paragraph. So again, this is worth 10 points. 2 for the thesis statement, 5 for the main points clearly stated, and 3 for the flow. So make sure that that intro paragraph has all those 3 things. Flow, your main points that you're going to talk about in your paragraphs, and that your main thesis statement is clear. Okay, that's worth 10 points. So far we're at 15. The next 3 paragraphs is the body of your entire research paper. Each of these paragraphs is pretty much the same in that it needs the same type of information, okay? These are each worth 20 points. So body paragraph 1, 2, and 3 need to have enough information. There's a lot of rough drafts that I've graded that have maybe 2 or 3 sentences. That is not enough information, okay? A paragraph is at least 5 to 6 sentences. You're in 6th grade. You should be in the 6 to 7 sentence range for all 3 of these, okay? You need to have enough information. You need to have categories that are in logical order and that they make sense. So when you start talking about something, don't jump around and like flip your thoughts. Make sure that you're talking about one thing, that you finish that thought, and then that you continue to the next thought after. When you guys are flipping back and forth, it's very confusing, and I've had to go through and cross out certain things that are just not making sense, okay? You need to make sure you have complete sentences and complete thoughts. We've been talking about this all year. This is not new information, okay? All sentences within the paragraph support the topic sentence of the paragraph. Okay, this also implies that you have a topic sentence. So your paragraph should start with a topic sentence, okay? And then all the paragraphs within that should flow nicely from thought to thought in complete sentences, okay? And you will also get 3 points to cite your information within that paragraph. What does that mean? I explained this in the Zoom call. You guys have a lot of really good information from all the research that you've done, but I don't know what you knew and what you've researched, what's new information to you. So when you're writing about whatever, let's say you're talking about elephants and you're writing about all these wonderful things about elephants, I need you to cite your sources for that information that you learned and that you're writing about. So right after your sentence is over, you either need to put in parentheses a number that corresponds to that source of information in your bibliography. Okay? So let's say that the first thing on your bibliography is African elephants in the wild. That's the name of the article. It's going to be the first thing because your bibliography needs to be in alphabetical order. So that would make sense, okay? African elephants in the wilderness. That's the name of the source, okay? So if I'm talking about how African elephants live in groups in the wilderness, I didn't make that information up myself. I didn't know that before this research paper. So right after that sentence, in parentheses, I'm gonna put a little number 1 so that the reader can go down to my bibliography and say, number 1, I wonder what article that is. They're gonna look at the list and they're gonna say, oh, number 1, African elephants in the wilderness. This is where she got that information. That is what citing within the text means. Citing your sources, okay? Another important thing about that is that whatever information you put in your paragraphs is supposed to be a summary of what you read. So in other words, it needs to be in your own words, your own thoughts, your own language. I do not want you copying and pasting information from another source and putting it in your paper, because even if it's cited, that's using someone else's information and putting it in yours. That person worked hard and they edited their paper, and now your job is to summarize that information, put it in your paper, and cite where that information came from. Does that make sense? Thank you. Okay, so the 3 body paragraphs of your paper need to have those things, okay? Paragraph contains enough information. That's worth 5 points. Categories are in logical order and make sense. That's worth 3 points. Complete sentences and complete thoughts. That's worth 5 points. All sentences within the paragraph support the topic sentence of that paragraph. That's worth 4 points, okay? And you've used in-text citations. That's worth 3 points. So all of those points put together make each of those body paragraphs worth 20 points each. Okay, so far we've talked about constructing your paper. We've talked about your introduction paragraph and your 3 body paragraphs, okay? So 20, 20, 20, 10, and 5, that's 75 points just in those 5 sections, okay? The next thing we're gonna talk about is the conclusion. Your conclusion is worth 15 points, okay? Now, this is made up of a paragraph that wraps up the whole entire paper. This does not mean that you are saying, in the first paragraph, I told you about elephants' families. In the second paragraph, I told you about elephants' anatomy. In the third paragraph, I told you about elephants and the dangers. It's basically saying those things without listing off where it all is, okay? So I have had so much fun learning about elephants. It was really interesting to learn about the dangers that elephants are facing in the wilderness, period. It was really endearing to learn more about how elephants live within their families in the wilderness, period. I found it very interesting that elephants are one of the biggest animal in the world, but have the smallest brain, period. Like, you're summarizing each of those other paragraphs in your conclusion. Okay, so there should be at least, again, 5 to 6 sentences in that, 3 of which summarize your main body paragraphs. The other one, the last one is basically like, in conclusion, okay? That's the only time that you can say that. In conclusion, I am still very enthralled by elephants, the way they live, how they move in the wild, and I cannot wait to be able to go to Africa and see an elephant in person one day in a safari, period, okay? I don't want you, again, listing off which paragraph the information is in. You don't need to do that. I just read it, okay? So your conclusion paragraph is made up of three different elements, okay? 5 points for your paragraph wrapping everything up, 5 points for restating the three main points or summarizing the three main points, and then 5 points for complete sentences and complete thoughts. Again, remember, complete sentences, 100% a thing. This is not the time to question that, okay? So, next, your bibliography is worth 5 points. You need a minimum amount of citations. For us, for 6th grade, you only need 2, okay? Minimum 2. You can have more, that's fine, but you need 2. And spelling and grammar is 5 points. So 3 or less errors, you get 5 points. 4 or more errors, you get 4 points. 6 or more errors, you get 2 points, so on and so forth. Please do not forget that you need to have information in your research paper about your mentor, about your experiences with your mentor, or information about why your mentor was your mentor, why you chose them, what made them in your mind a person who you chose to tell you about this thing, okay? Some of you that chose photography, you had amazing mentors. Tell me about them. Just use a few sentences, okay, to talk to me about them. Maybe 1 or 2 sentences in each of your body paragraphs. Maybe you have an extra body paragraph, okay, that just talks about your mentor a little bit. I know I made some changes to a few of yours and said, please add a paragraph about your mentor. Maybe you didn't have enough paragraphs, or maybe it's just part of your research paper. You're not going to get extra points for that. That's part of what you need to have. So either include it in your body paragraphs, include information about your mentor, do a separate paragraph for them, maybe at the beginning or at the end, probably at the beginning, if you're going to talk about certain things that they helped you learn throughout your essay. But somewhere or another, put in information about that person, okay? Either somebody you researched or someone who you actually face-to-face were able to have contact with, okay? So I hope you don't have any questions. If you do, email me or comment within the assignment through a private comment so that I can answer your questions. This is due. Okay, it is due April 6th at noon. So that's Monday by noon. I need to have all your final papers turned in. So if you are done with it and you want to start turning them in, that's totally fine. I'm not going to grade them and stop accepting them until Monday, April 6th at noon. Okay? Please let me know if you have questions. Please have this paper next to you when you're writing. I'm going to hate it so much to take off points for things that I talked about in this video and that are on this paper that you can just follow and add as you go, okay? Make sure your thoughts are complete, make sure your sentences are complete, make sure things make sense. If I've made corrections to your paper, like take something off and add something, just do that. Okay, because I have your rough draft saved. I can see the difference between what I told you to do and what I suggested as changes to whether or not you've done it or not. Okay, so that's gonna matter to me. I'm almost at 15 minutes. I'm gonna let you go. Please let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, I will accept these on Monday by noon. Okay, bye guys, have a good night.